Say we talk to Chloe in Pennsylvania.
Let's do it. All right, Chloe, pronouns he, her from Pennsylvania, says that she wants to talk about the nature of hope and despair from an atheist position. Chloe, you are live on the show. Can you kind of tell us a bit more about your question today?
Sure. Also, it's supposed to be she, her. I don't know how it became he, her.
It says she, her. Sorry if I misspoke.
Oh, sorry. So I've been having some hard times. I've gone through a mental health break and, just rough times. And, to quote Loki, yeah, okay, sad. Let's move on. It's finally clearing up. Things are finally getting better. But it's made me really ponder what gets me through despair. And it is vibes. It is a sense of something that goes beyond rationality. And, it was really understanding that was driving me through this hard time. I have to get grounded and make sure that my theist brain doesn't get too far away from the plot. Because there are rational ways to look at hope in times of despair, right? There are ways to get to that position without relying on magical thinking, right?
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, I guess I'm a little bit unclear on really the nature of your question.
Oh, the question is like, when you're despairing, when you're going through a difficult time, and you're left with this idea of like, what is rational to do in this moment? How do you choose hope? How do you choose optimism?
Yeah, I hear that. And I almost wonder if the notion of rationality might be confounding us a little bit here. I certainly don't mean to tell you about your feelings, and anything that puts you in a place where you are feeling more comfortable, where you are feeling more healthy, where you are feeling like you are better equipped and better prepared to lead the life that's in front of you. Far be it from me to come in and tinker with your brain and tell you to think differently around those issues. But what I might suggest is that hopefulness, even in the face of despair or in the face of these like objective negative truths or however we want to define it, is not necessarily irrational. It's just incredibly multifactorial. There are so many things that we can point to and say, well, that's a good thing. Well, but that's a bad thing. Well, but that's a good thing. And then we have to sort of like balance and weigh and measure and come to some sort of assessment. And all of that may be fairly arbitrary in a lot of ways. I think it's okay to say, I choose to be hopeful because I choose to be hopeful. And we might label that as irrational, but I think that there is an inherent rationality to sitting down and sort of sorting through and saying, you know what, even if there are 99 problems and only one good thing that I can find, it's okay to evaluate that and still say, but I have hope, but I choose to focus on this positive thing, but I did not earn my existence or deserve to be given life. I have life, and that's beautiful all in its own right. I know we're being a little bit sort of esoteric or flighty here. So, Chloe, let me check in to see if any of this is resonating, if we're on the same page at all.
Oh, definitely. It's just that what I ultimately want to get to is that there is an emotional vibe to religion, to faith, to magical thinking that I cannot get over, that I question every part of it. And in this time when I've been relying on that the most, I'm left with what is this thing that I've been relying on, this feeling. And my therapist hasn't been of any help. So I figure I'll take this to someone who might know something, who might ground me back into, brain chemicals and, the nature of reality. That's why I called it in. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, is like, how do I not fall into a theist trap through hope, through that kind of thinking.
Yeah, I do not believe that magical thinking is necessary in order to hold on to hope in the face of incredible distress and, very valid and reasonable fears about what could go wrong. But hope is, I think, more of an attitude. It's a component of our sense of mindfulness. It is the thing that we choose to focus on, or the lens that we choose to receive all of this information through. I, I don't want to get too far afield, and I don't want to make any like grandiose claims about other people's experiences of the world, but just as a, for instance, while it is true that I absolutely support the notion of death with dignity, and I believe that people ought to have the right to decide whether or not to continue living, particularly when they are faced with incredible amounts of pain and suffering because of medical conditions and things along those lines, philosophically, I aspire, if not always achieve, I aspire to find gratitude in my existence, no matter what it is. The fact that I exist at all is a remarkable thing that I choose to be grateful for. I got to not exist since the beginning of time, and I'm going to not exist again until the end of time. And I barely understand the physics of what that previous sentence even means, but I recognize that there will be so much non-existence in my existence or over the course of time. And the fact that I get to exist in this moment at all, even when it's raining, even when my bank account is overdrawn, even when I'm lonely or arguing with my friends and my family or hurt or struggling, the fact that I get to feel those things at all is kind of beautiful. And so I take a hopeful attitude that things will get better, and a attitude of gratitude towards the things that I do enjoy, because there is no mathematical equation that's going to say like, well, this is sufficient or good enough or too much good or too bad or too much badness, or none of that really works when we're talking about our emotional experiences. Does that offer any sort of clarity to what you're trying to navigate here?
Pretty much. It means that we have to live our lives according to what we discern and how we understand it. And we have to make the best of it. And that is all we've got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that we have to
need
make
to
the
learn-
best of it, rather that we have the opportunity to choose to. And, it's a constant moment by moment choice. And that's the nature of mindfulness. And our attitude, our focus, our attention will always sort of shift or fluctuate. We're not able to focus or meditate on one particular aspect of life indefinitely. Our brains are built to kind of float around. We all have monkey mind to some degree, and that's natural and that's okay. But, I do kind of come back to that notion that we can survive any how or any how, so long as we have a sufficient why. And if our why is because I love life, because I choose to be grateful that I exist, then there is hope to be found at every moment.
Okay. So I think I've got it. And I think I'm good to go. Because I think this is really what I was looking for, was like making sure that I wasn't too far off like I said, too far off the plot.
Yeah.
Because I just have to make sure that I'm like making rational sense of what I feel, because rational thinking is one thing, rational feeling is another. And I just had to make sure I was grounded in all of this. So it sounds like I just have to appreciate what life has to offer moment by moment and get through it. So
yeah, I think that's a good maxim. I think that's a good aspiration. But the last idea that I would like to maybe plant a seed for is that as you are working to be more self-compassionate, as you are working to perhaps find more gratitude and more hope, I would love to invite you to be self-compassionate about the fact that it can be really fucking hard to be self-compassionate, right? Like, be grateful. Sure, it's a wonderful maxim. And understand and respect and have forgiveness and patience with the fact that you're not always going to be grateful. You're not always going to have the right attitude or the right mindset, and that's okay. even those brief moments, those flickers, those glimmers of feeling compassionate towards yourself, understanding and full of loving kindness towards the things that you are struggling with, those little glimmers are worth living for, I would argue. And they're beautiful on their own right, even though they're not going to be continuous. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It is okay to struggle with finding gratitude. It is okay to struggle with being self-compassionate. And as you aspire to be more self-compassionate, don't let your struggle be just another excuse to judge or to beat yourself up.
I was not expecting this wonderful of an answer.
Well, I hope that there
so
is
much,
some value there. I know that we're getting into some like kind of loose-lipped philosophy, and I know it can be hard to sort of grab in the air. It's very difficult to put it into words. So I hope that in all of this, there's something to be distilled down.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.
I appreciate your call.